Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the main stage at ICCC 2021. If this is your first time joining us at the main stage, I want to thank you for joining us here at ICCC and in the McGavock Ballroom. To those joining us on YouTube Live at home, thank you so much for being with us. You're not going to want to miss this. I've got a special. We're going to have a conversation. We're gonna chat. We're gonna relax. I got somebody really cool back here. He's a super nice guy. He's one of the nicest guys you ever meet. He happens to have been in a movie that a few of you have probably seen. He's been in Star Wars Episode 2 as Boba Fett is probably what you may know him from. And he also happens to be a toy collector just like most of us. So who wants to chat toys? We can talk. We can do some Q&A. We can talk about your toys. We can talk about his toys. We can talk about my toys if you want. Well, let's just talk about some Star Wars toys. Who's a collector in this room? Pretty much everybody, for the most part. All right. So, without any further ado, let's get him out here and let's just chat some plastic. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for Daniel Logan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the ICCC. Thank you, my man. Appreciate the introduction.
You got it. Come on over, have a seat. Let's.
What's up, everybody? Are you having a good time? Yeah? Everybody having a wonderful time? Bought some collectibles that you never thought you'd ever see at a Comic-Con or a convention? Ever? Oh, man.
We're here to talk toys. Yeah. Have you bought anything yet?
Yeah, I got confused between being a seller and a buyer. I was one of the first people in the room sales trying to do some first negotiations, I guess we could call it. And people were like, "Oh, you're selling right now?" I'm like, "Just my autograph. No haggling my figures in my collection here at the ICCC." I should have, though. I mean, did you guys see those room sales in the lobby yesterday?
Who was at the room sales last night? Show of hands. Who was there? Pretty much everybody.
So I have a vinyl cape Jawa on card and also loose. And when I saw what the last one went for last night, I don't know if it was I stopped drinking. I had a couple, and made me think, you know what? Maybe I might want to sell my Jawa. So I'm thinking maybe my son might not get to see the Jawa till he's 5. Through to 5.
There may be a Jawa for sale here very soon.
It was meant to go into his Sarlacc pit for his collection, and it wasn't meant to come out until the next Mandalorian. I mean, till he's ready to go to college. But I don't know. After last night, watching that one go for $18,000.
How old's the little guy now?
My little guy's 3 years old.
Oh, he's not gonna know the difference. Sell it.
He does. We have these arguments, me and my son. So, I don't know if you got. And I see a couple parents here, they know what going through your wonderful 3s is like. Well, for me, my son is getting to the age where he's just starting to love all of the vintage Star Wars. The only problem is his dad loves the vintage Star Wars too.
There's a reason, because the vintage Star Wars are so playable.
Well, the colors are so attractable, even to the kids of the new era. So I had gotten myself an Ewok hut. In the box, it was perfect. He reminds me of my little sister. So what happened is, I come back home, my wife's like, "Oh, baby, he loves your murder beers." And I'm like, "My murder beers?" And he's like, "Yeah, Caden's calling them the murder beers. Where
did he hear that?
And I don't know, right? I'm like, "What?" So he starts smashing on the top of the play hut. Meanwhile, it just came out of a sealed box. Yeah. How do you explain that to a 3-year-old? My wife looks over at me and goes, "Babe, you have enough. Don't you think you could just give up one?" And I'm sitting in my mind going, "But why did it have to be that one?" As a grown adult fighting with my 3-year-old over technically toys.
My kids don't really like Star Wars anymore. They did when they were really young, and I think really it's because I just wouldn't let them touch my toys.
That's me.
I'm doing damage to them. I gave them a drawer. I gave my kids, when my kids were very, very little, probably 2, 3 years old, I started this. I gave them a drawer in my office that had all the open Power of the Force 2 line that they could play with to their heart's content. It had all the weapons in there and the little
Power of the Force 2. Yeah. Did you hear that? I was like, Power of the Force, that's nice.
There was
Power of the Force 2. Oh, we all gave our kids Power of the Force 2. Red or green card, you can have it.
They probably got some episode 1 or episode 2 figures. They probably had a little Boba Fett as well, I imagine.
Hey, there's only the one with the half circle, And I'm like, how many times have I given that one away?
No, I said a little Boba Fett. They had a little you in my drawer.
It was funny. I got asked, close your ass, kids. But it was like at a convention, I got asked, Daniel, I just come into Star Wars, and they just come out with the Camino Escape. And the question was, Daniel, what does it feel like to play with yourself? I went, what? That's not. They said, well, I mean, how is it like to be able to play with a figure of yourself? And again, that's kind of weird. But because I collected as soon as I started getting my first shipment in from George Lucas, I didn't open any of them. I literally put the box, opened them, smelt that beautiful Hasbro, Kenner, that toy collecting smell.
Has an aroma.
It has its own aroma.
It wafts gently into the room.
Well, as soon as the box comes, it's like almost like a potpourri spray, like poof. You know the smell. And I had a huge collection from George Lucas. So I didn't realize at the time when I first started to get into the world of Star Wars that there was so many different branches and so many different like variations of the world of Star Wars. And the toy collecting part was only one small bracket, which I didn't even think collecting toys, there was actually a small community out there that actually was doing the same thing as me. Every time we went to Toys R Us or Walmart or found a friend that worked somewhere, we would be like, get me it first. How many do you need? The whole entire line, rack, give me everything. What? Yeah, everything. But what about everyone else? Who cares about everyone else, right? So for me, it started with George Lucas.
What were the first toys that George Lucas gave you?
My first collectibles were the episode 1's, episode 1, Power of the Force. He just came out with those droid building ones. They're like it's a 2-set. It's like a Connect. My little sister actually, she sent me a couple of pictures. Meanwhile, this was back in the day when shipping wasn't as cheap as it is today. We didn't have Amazon, right? So the box itself would cost $500 or $600 just to send me this box about this big, like no lies. And then my family would be like, because I come from a family of 6, like, Daniel, Star Wars has sent you another box. I'm like, oh, wow. Meanwhile, all the other 5 siblings are sitting there like, we didn't get anything. Yeah. I wasn't in Star Wars. So I started collecting from that age. Well, what happened was most people don't realize, but I moved from New Zealand to California on my own at 15 years old. But I forgot to take my collection with me. So I had left a lot of, like George gave me this one bust. I forget who it was made by, but it's a Boba Fett. It's a statue, and he's like shooting up into the air. It's heavy as hell. But I think they actually have some of the Wookiee braid from Chewie's braid on like some of the statues. They're beautiful. So I had boxes and boxes, and then when I had left, I called my little sister, and she managed to let me know that she had opened up most of the collection by, oh, wow, I played with this one the other day. It was awesome, and I played with that one, that. Well, my mother had no clue about value or Star Wars because we grew up in New Zealand, and she threw it all away. So she was like, exactly, how do you think I felt? It was like, there goes the trust fund. So
it's okay. That happened to about 75% of us as well. You go away to college, and mom and dad say, "Hey, there's a box of toys," and someone's waving their hand in the back. Yeah, it happened to me. Yeah. I got a show of hands already. Yeah, our moms, they found them at a garage sale. Here, 30 cents a piece. No, you can't sell them for 30 cents. No one will pay that much. Put them for 10 cents. That was garage sales growing up, right? Is that how your family argued about garage sales?
See, my mother wasn't smart enough to do garage sales. She just threw it all away. I guess with that many kids, you're like, just toss it away. We got enough. So she threw it all away. And what I didn't realize is, before being a collector, is that when you get stuff straight from Lucasfilm, it has a different serial number to the stuff that's produced for the public. So I actually had figures that were limited to just people who could actually only buy or straight directly attached to Lucasfilm. I had no clue about any of that. So my little sister, I adore her. She's 9 years younger than me. I still love her to this day, even though she did. But it made me chase what I had, and I ended up losing. So from there, I became a collector. And I was very blessed that most of my life I got to spend overseas. So when I was working in pounds, I would try to have to bring it back to US dollars, but instead I would just tell people at the booth on a Sunday, like, hey, so you want to just sell me a few things? And they'd be like, yeah, I'll sell you a couple things. What are you looking for, Boba? I'll do you a really good deal. Let's be able to sell to Boba. I'm like, how about the whole booth?
Let's build this collection really quickly.
They're like the whole booth. I'm like, yeah, I'll take everything.
I gotta
Just give me a really good deal.
Are you the Michael Jackson of toy collectors?
Well, I didn't realize there was other people like me, like Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff like that, that for me, once I got given the first figures from George Lucas, I was attached to this new franchise by the fact that he brought me in through Star Wars. But being a kid, and one of the only 3 kids to be able to come out of the world of Star Wars, to be able to actually enjoy one of the other sides of the movie franchise that he's made, which was the toy franchise. I mean, most people don't realize, but it was the only other competitor to George Lucas is Disney, who now owns Star Wars. How funny. You know, I got to learn so much being in Lucasfilm, down to the point of, like, you know, the dealing between Kenner and Lucasfilm, and how George was a very smart and patient man and waited around to get that license back. And the day they didn't sell, you know, that many units, he hit them with the, you know, you did not fulfill the clause, and he bought it back and sold to Hasbro basically the next day. And that's why, thank you, Hasbro, and everything that you've created now. But it's an incredible thing.
What would you say? So you were 13 when you did episode 2, correct?
I was 13. Yeah.
13. He was playing an 8-year-old. Correct? Boba
I
Fett was
know,
8
it
years old.
sucks. I have these little kids come up, and they're like 10. They're already almost as tall as me. I'm like, how old are you, kid? I'm 10. I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, when I was 10, I was like this big, you know? I tell people, actually, it's funny because I love all aspects of the collecting world, even the Legos. I mean, I have probably like 300 Lego still in the box. Thanks.
A lot of Lego collectors.
But I tell people, like, I'm like, you know, there's only one character that came out of Star Wars that can be both a female and a male toy. And he says, what? They always say, what do you mean? I go, well, you put the hair on, and technically it's the only girl hair that they put on Lego characters. That's young Boba Fett. And then you take the hair off, and I'm old Boba Fett out of the Sarlacc pit, you know? So I'm like a 2-figure character, you know?
That's
it just
true.
depends on what side of the Force you want to play.
Okay, so 13-year-old Daniel Logan has just had the dream of his life that he didn't even know at the time probably come true, and became an actor in the Star Wars universe. And then all of a sudden, you can walk into a toy store and you can buy a Daniel Logan action figure that just happened to say Boba Fett. What's going through the mind of a 13-year-old when you have your own action figure?
So I never knew what a convention was when I first got to get the first opportunity of my box getting sent to me full of the Camino Escape. So I had all my friends from school come over to my garage, and I'm like, yep, you want one? Line up? Yep. Okay, and I'm like signing away all the Camino Escapes and just giving them away to my friends. My best friend that I've had since I was 7 years old, he still has the Camino Escape, my very first autograph I ever signed for anybody. Not even knowing that one day I'll be in the convention hall signing for people. You know, I'm in this garage in New Zealand down in the middle of nowhere. This was before Hobbits existed. And I was hustling my Camino Escape for free.
No one has ever come to my garage to get my autograph or to buy my toys.
If only I knew that, you know, they'd become a little bit more expensive once I put my autograph on and sold it online. I would have kept all those Camino Escapes, you know? But for me, it was funny because you look at the figure as it's got to look more like me. But you realize at the time with technology, I mean, you know, it was good enough. But it had a little picture of me on the side of the figure, which I was always able to definitely tell people, that is me. That is me. Like, no. Okay. But like, what other movie could you be in the world and they produce a figure of you that will still last 20 years later, and people are now trying to find it, you know, at conventions, online, anywhere they can, because it's no longer produced. And it's already turned in, next year will be 20 years. That blue carded.
It's crazy. I always snap at people when they talk about anything from 1995 to today, and anyone says anything in the same sentence with the word vintage, because to me as a collector, nothing past 1995 is vintage, right?
No,
so,
1979.
Yeah, 1977 through 85 is vintage in my mind. But seriously, we're getting to a point where the era where your toy was produced is becoming what we would have called vintage 20 years ago.
It's kind of another dilemma, right? We had a dilemma with the films when the original movies went into prequel, you know, and it was like this little sticky part where we have a new generation of collectors. They're my age, a little older, a little younger, and then the new collectors of the old world, right? The collectors of the original movies, God bless most of my friends, you know, most of them have been passing. but so is that generation that followed them, that grew up with them, that was their movie they went and watched at a cinema with their father or mother or grandfather. So this new generation is the new generation that technically, at first I was like, no, that's not vintage. I mean, what are you talking about? But then I had to start to realize that is their vintage.
But really, these toys are all about memories to us. They're memories to you. They're memories to me. They're memories to everybody in this room. And they become special to us. And people that don't collect, who don't have that collecting mentality, they don't get it. My wife's one of those people. My wife doesn't collect a single thing, and God bless her, she's the most wonderful woman in the world. But she doesn't collect a thing.
Same as me.
And
my wife says it's called like Connor Marie or Colin Marie or something like that. So basically, if I buy a T-shirt, I must give another one to the Force. I don't believe in that. I like all my T-shirts. I might just like another new T-shirt. You know, I might have one figure, but that one's a tri-logo. I might kind of like that one too. Like, how do you thin out a Colin Marie? You know, I don't know.
We were just chatting backstage. The things that I would consider modern, they're really exploding. The value's just starting to skyrocket on some of this stuff that we said would always be just $5 at the comic book store.
Even comics themselves. Last year were $1.50. You're like $40, $50, $200 now. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. But it's this new generation. And they're showing that their love for Star Wars is that they will keep the market high. I mean, there's Ahsoka going in there for like $750, and I kind of want to tap the guy on the shoulder and go, you could probably get another $50 for that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but I'm like, well, if it's still there, I might buy it at the end of the weekend. But it's like, even a figure like Ahsoka, Dave Filoni is so smart that he started picking up, he didn't only create new characters that became loved by the new generations, but he brought back old characters like the Jawas, being able to be the ones, if you've seen The Mandalorian, sorry if I've spoiled it, but they kind of
If they haven't seen The Mandalorian by now, spoil away.
Yeah, sorry, but you know, they brought the Jawas in to be able to found Boba's armor, and then, you know, there's just so many characters that have come from the original characters or original franchise that my generation, our generation, if you weren't a diehard, you would have missed these characters. But now they're becoming actually new pop, you know, icons, just simply because Dave Filoni's taken the time and knowing the vast expansion of the sagas, that he knows who to pick up and who to put in at what time.
I think he's got a little touch of George Lucas in him and a little touch of Walt Disney, and he has that vision to where he can see the marketability of the toys and how the playability comes into, because let's face it, these were all originally created for kids, and we're all kids at heart. That's why we really enjoy
That's what
we
I try to
collect.
say too, right? I'm like, yeah, these were originally made for kids. And then my kid comes into my office. I'm like, oh, wait, get out of here. You know what I mean? We all have that, like, that cassette playing, and these were for kids. They ought to be played with. Not anymore.
We do have to remember that a little bit. I remember sitting in Celebration in Orlando after sleeping on the concrete the night before, and George Lucas comes on the say, yeah, you got it cush, buddy.
What?
I slept on the concrete the night before. How many slept on the concrete the night before Celebration? There's a few of you in here.
I love you guys. I love that shirt as well, all black. Kia ora, my brother. That's actually how I got into acting. That'll be another Q&A.
That's tomorrow.
That's another Q&A.
But George Lucas gets on stage. He was one of the surprise guests along with Harrison Ford, and George Lucas says, "Yeah, I made Star Wars for the kids.
Yeah,
it's a kids movie." But I'm a kid, and I'm okay with that, right?
Well, I mean, do you think to be able to create something so amazing like he has, and still to be able to live to see it being made and being able to be appreciated? I mean, the guy has everything basically Walt Disney had created without seeing it, but George is still here today to see it all. I mean, we're all sitting here in a room now, truly because of George Lucas. The power of one man brought us all together. This opportunity today. Well, and the fact that beautiful Mike Havens and Andrea put on a wonderful show and allowed us to see celebrities and get some of the best collectibles there are.
That's true, too.
I tell you guys,
but we have these great celebrities who come to these shows, and they happen to sometimes be collectors as well, so it's great. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
I kept it like, you know, being a collector, I didn't think it was collecting. I just thought it was kind of hoarding, you know, and it was kind of my hoard.
It is a bit of hoarding. I mean, I've got boxes in the closet of stuff that I don't have on display. Let's talk about some of your toys. What's the pride and joy? Do you have a favorite? Do you have something that, it doesn't have to be the most valuable, it could have the biggest memory attached, or it could be your favorite character, or something like that. What's your favorite toy that you have in your collection? It's a tough question.
It is. I have a lot. I think my Stormtrooper helmet that I got given from Rick McCallum. So I didn't really know Star Wars growing up because I grew up on an island which we had only 3 channels. My mom had 6 kids, so the 4th channel was in her bedroom. So we really didn't get much entertainment, you know. So Star Wars never really came around until I got the audition to be in the movie. So then when I was up at Lucasfilm Ranch, I was seeing all the collectibles being produced. I was able to walk into the room where they had, like, you know, the approvals on some, or, you know, prototypes on others. So I was able to see stuff that most people weren't able to see. They were giving me T-shirts that were never getting re-released. And I had no clue about this stuff. So I'll wear it and be like, oh, it's a little short on me now. I grow a couple pounds, I lose a couple pounds, I throw it away. And I'm thinking now, I'm like, what are you, idiot? You should have kept, so I started keeping everything. You know, your hoarder mentality comes right back. But I went into his office, and there was a Stormtrooper helmet sitting right next to him. And I barely knew, because I had barely seen the originals at this time. They literally paid me to sit down and watch the movies. I was like, all right, sweet.
You didn't have to pay me to watch Star Wars.
George is like, okay, Sid, kid, just sit here, and I'm gonna need you to watch this for a couple of hours. I got ADHD still at 33. Could you imagine the first beginning of A New Hope? He doesn't even appear. I'm like, why'd you make me watch this one? So I go to Empire Strikes Back, you know, and it's like, poof, poof. I'm like, was that him? And that was when rewinding was very hard. You couldn't just touch a tablet and pull your hand back and it would take you back to the scene you want to see. It was just like,
I went too far.
Yeah, I don't think you created Blu-ray at that time. So the Stormtrooper helmet was sitting there, and I'm like, oh, what is that? Because I was a little kid and got to go in every single person's office. And he's like, oh, that's a Stormtrooper helmet from the re-release that they did, which Mark Austin was in. And I'm turning around quickly and go, oh, wow. Meanwhile, they've been sending me boxes of figures for a while now, right? I'm like, oh, wow. I've always wanted a Stormtrooper helmet.
That's what I do. If I'm in the Lucasfilm offices and I'm 13 years old, hey, I'd really like to have one of those.
I had no clue what a Stormtrooper was, you know what I mean? So I fly back home. A couple of days later, the box of figures come, and in the box of figures is the Stormtrooper helmet. And he gave me the Stormtrooper helmet. So I love that just because of the story behind it. It might not be my most valuable piece, but the fact that Rick McCallum was like an uncle to me. I was spoiled, being so young and energetic. They all attracted to me. So when I got given that was the only thing I took from New Zealand at the time that I left. I was like, you guys can keep it all, but I'm taking this helmet. You know, going through customs with that, like looking at me like, it's probably one of the only times I threw under the bus that I was in Star Wars, scratching their head like, what are you doing with a Stormtrooper helmet, kid? You got a little green suitcase and a Stormtrooper helmet. Welcome to America. You're gonna fit in great, kid.
Many of the collectors in this room have probably had the experience of over the years, especially with the toys that are in the stores right now. And for me, I'm not old enough to really remember shopping for the vintage toys. I remember my parents bringing them home. I remember going to the stores, but I don't have a lot of vivid memories. I was fairly young at the time. But during the 90s, I remember going to Toys R Us and hanging out. We knew what the truck schedule was. So we knew when the toys were being delivered. So there was a group of about 10 of us that we would just show up on a Wednesday morning because we knew the truck was coming in.
These guys are the original UPS followers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're like the guys who used to steal the packages on your door, but they're like taking all the stuff out of the Toys R Us on us.
I'll tell you more stories in here.
I walk in at 12 o'clock. I'm like, there's got to be at least one.
Do you still go to the toys? Do you go to Walmart?
No, I can't go down the aisles anymore. No, I can't. It's hard to go in that. I didn't even want to buy it down on the shop sales, but it's like it's on the way to my hotel room. And I just happened to look in and see, you know, a wonderful guy I knew, and he was selling some Bobas. I'm like, oh, damn it. But my wife's going to be mad. No, you know what? I think, which I hope it doesn't happen to a lot of people, where because I've been collecting for so long and I've had the opportunity to have so much with the opportunities I've had, you almost lose the chase. Like where it used to be a chase to me, like you said, I didn't have many opportunities to know the Toys R Us or the Walmart guy. I just talked to the cashier. I didn't know I needed to get in with the damn manager. My cashier, hey, sweetheart, have you seen any Star Wars toys on the racks? We haven't seen them since 8 o'clock, since this guy walked in with his 4 friends who followed the truck in.
We had some story. You want to know the secrets that we had? Let's hear some secrets from.
Now we
from
can
the
share the
90s.
secrets because it's no use anymore.
Okay,
You know, share the new secrets.
So Slave Leia comes out in the 90s. Remember when the Slave Leia figure? It was the first Slave Leia figure. We've all been wanting this figure for ages, and they finally decided to do a Slave Leia.
Which I believe they're no longer going to produce.
I believe they are.
Unfortunately
Disney
not.
does not like anything. We
I
don't
mean,
wanna call her a
fanboys.
slave.
Sorry, woman, close your ears, but fanboys, wasn't it the nicest thing to look at Star Wars? It's like, oh, she's back, sweet. I can stick in this movie another 20 minutes.
Kill that slug. Kill that slug.
Exactly. Pull that chain. Salacious is actually here.
We were rooting for her. That's why I wanted her toy. She's got that action. Yeah, Salacious was just on the stage. So figures like that, when the hot figure would come out. So growing up, I mean, I was a teenager. I was in high school at the time.
Oh, so you're just peaking hormones.
Yeah, we're not going there. We're not going there, Daniel.
Oh, sorry. I forgot everyone's there.
That's not the direction the story's going.
That was more of a personal. I'm like, I totally relate.
so
that was Padme for me.
I had gotten a car, so I have to spend money on gas.
See what I mean? It's just a different original, you know?
Wow. You were in the movie with her.
Trust me, my hormones straight kicked on that white outfit. There was a reason why I sat outside that couch every day.
What was I talking about?
Just being honest. You were saying about figures like Slave Leia.
So the hot toys, not the hot toys, but the toys that everybody wanted were coming out. So I'm a high school kid. I got a few dollars in my pocket to pay for gas.
Hormones are raging.
And my hormones are raging, and I want this toy, but I can't afford it.
So you steal her.
I didn't steal. No, stealing's bad.
I know.
I didn't steal.
I might have stole.
I hid her.
I stole once or twice from my neighbor's tree.
I hid her from their tree.
I do that. Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Okay. Anyway,
I grew up on an
let's not
island.
get
You don't
sidetracked.
steal toys. You steal like fruit from a tree. But I grew up with Samoans and Tongans, and these guys don't mess around when you steal their fruit. Like,
You know what happens when you steal fruit from
guy
a tree?
comes out with a dress on and a machete and chases you down with
There's
sandals.
a whole book about stealing fruit from a tree. Don't
I'm
do
not
that.
lying. I mean, you guys are lying. This is my life. So I'm like, thank you, George Lucas. You saved me from
Anyway,
that savage island.
The hot Slave Leia toy, not the popular Slave Leia toy comes out. I can't afford her. I hide her. I lift up the end cap, and there's a whole bunch of space under there. There still is today. If you open those up, there are probably Slave Leias underneath. I promise.
You just forgot to go back.
I'd stick her under there. There were a few.
So you hide her in the Sarlacc pit.
So I went back a couple days later after I got some money from my parents, and I bought her, and it was all good. But you know what I did? I figured out that there was other people that knew the exact same secret that I did. So every time I go into Toys R Us, I'd look under every single one. I'm like, where's this one? Okay, hang on.
It's like, don't worry, it's just another
Bingo.
crackhead looking for Star Wars stuff. Like, it ain't there. They take it all.
Bingo. Han in carbonite freezing chamber. That's not the variation that has carbonite block. That's the rare one. I'm rich.
What a dick. Oh, we're all jealous. We all turned jealous real quick. Like,
Somebody else
that
hit that
story
one.
was cool until you told us which one it was.
Somebody else found that one. It's worth
it.
$5 today if that makes you feel any better.
What people do now is they'll take it from one aisle and they're gonna put it like under like the My Ponies or whatever, you know, like
We
the
did
ones
that
that aren't
trick.
selling.
No. Everyone knew that trick. They still do that, but everyone knows that trick, so they find them. So you know what else we did? Okay, so I grew up in this.
You know, we're all going to Toys R Us tonight. Like,
I grew up in Middle Tennessee. Who's local here? Who's Nashville area? Give me a round of applause. Give me a round of applause, Nashville. All right.
nice.
So
Everyone else is from out of town.
Yeah.
Welcome to the ICC, baby. This is the future of conventions.
The out-of-towners outweigh the locals here. Wow, in Nashville, you got to get going.
That's only because the collection. They know where the collections are. they gotta go to Tennessee to get the real stuff.
It's true. So I grew up in Tennessee. I live in Florida, everybody. So I live near Disney World. And
How come you don't have a collection like Michael Havens then?
Who says I don't?
Wow.
Never know. Anyway, Daniel's coming over tomorrow.
It's the reason why me and Mike are best friends.
So I grew up in East Tennessee and then moved to the Nashville area. I went to MTSU. Go Blue Raiders! And
Everyone's like out of town. It's like what?
So this is my old stomping ground. Around that time, this was around when episode 1, episode 2 had come out, and we're checking out the local toy stores and comic stores, and there were some shady vendors, and we didn't like them. There's always the shady vendor. There's so many wonderful vendors, and all the vendors at ICCCon are the best vendors. But back in the day,
because they're all verified.
They are verified.
They've been verified.
No repro, everyone's good.
Commissary approval.
But we found, me and my buddy was here today, and this was the first time he got to come to see me at the ICCCon in years, and he's a local, so I was glad he was able to come. So we would go to the store. So we found a Walmart locally, and it was.
Tell us, come on,
it was
I'm dying
one of
now,
the
Mom.
final waves of the episode 1 figures. There were some really rare figures in that final wave from episode 1, and we found, I think, the Pit Droids 2-pack.
That's what I was gonna say. The Pit Droids 2-packs.
Pit Droids 2-pack. It was probably the most common of the rare figures from that wave, if anyone knows that wave. The Amidala and the CO Bubble were the really hard ones to get. So we found some Pit Droids, and we said, "There's a bunch here." We already had them. We were good. I wanted to leave some toys for the kids. I'm making myself look like the good guy here.
After the last story,
After
right?
the last story.
I'm boosting back up
Solo,
like,
yes! I found
You're the Han
somebody's hidden
Solo.
skill.
You're the Han Solo of collecting.
Somebody else hid it. I just found it. Anyway, so we said I want to leave some of these for the kids because it's a shame that some of these collectors come in. I've seen collectors shove kids out of the way. Don't do that. Don't shove kids out of the way to get their toy. Let the kids go first. I don't care if it's a $50 figure. Come on. Anyway, so we found these figures on the pegs. We bent the corners of the cards.
What a dick. I mean,
It was for the kids, Daniel.
you know it's for the kids. That's
For
a
the
boy.
kids. You know what's funny?
But what about someone like me who walks by and like, dick?
We
Right?
a couple days.
What about us kids?
A couple days later, we're driving around the area and we go to a comic book store that I believe was actually the brother-in-law of my friend who owned it. We're
You got
walking
hookups
around.
all over the galaxy.
He was not a hookup. We walk around and we find 2 Pit Droids with bent corners on on his pegs in the comic book store selling for like $45 a piece.
Now this is the original collectors, my friend.
I didn't
That's
buy
why
them. I
Pit
left them for
Droids-
the kids. He got them.
That's why the Pit Droids are so much money, because you can't find one without a bent corner.
I tried to leave it for the kids to open.
I got a couple without bent corners. Give me a call. No. But you know what? The thing is that with episode 1, episode 2, now even episode 3, with the fact that the sequels have come into the world, they've pushed those figures from Saga to Power of the Force 2, everything up. You know, and like you said, episode 3, there's like, what, 3 or 4, if you're lucky, out of the whole entire set. That's worth a couple more bucks. I mean, what can I say about episode 2? I mean, no, I always...
It's my favorite.
I have my few fans. I'm like, all right, buy every one you can. All right, just keep buying it. Keep me looking good. Keep me looking good. You know, that's why you can't find them. Every time I got some guy, no, I don't. I wish I did. I sold most of mine to my group, and I'm like running short, and I'm like, damn it, I've done like the garage thing again.
You've been selling to the group a lot. Who's seen Daniel's live sales? Daniel's, I find it very entertaining. If I'm looking for something to do, and there's nothing good on TV these days. I've already watched The Mandalorian 20 times. So I got to find something to do. Look, Daniel Logan's going live. I'm going to watch his stream because I don't need that, but I'm going to entertain myself. There's something about watching these. So the live stream, there's a handful of people like you, only a handful that do some really good live auctions and such, and it's such great entertainment. And I find it kind of the new trend in toy collecting. It's almost a bonding experience when everyone gets together and they watch somebody selling their toys live, and they're in a chat room and they're all communicating and talking and chatting, and it's a great experience. The collecting world is evolving, and you're a part of that. Not only because you're a collector, but you're also a seller in that sense. What was your inspiration for deciding to want to go live? I mean, you don't have to do that. You're Daniel Logan. I'm Daniel Logan. Why do I got to go live and sell toys? It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. It's addictive. Well, my wife said you should thin out some of these. You got a son now, you know, and I don't think she ever saw the magnitude that I was collecting at. I mean, one of my storage units took up like 40 feet of shipping container. So that was just one of my spots, you know, and it kind of got a little too carried away.
I'm telling my wife about this guy. I got nothing now.
Yeah,
I'm a saint.
I had one of my guys just go through like my smaller collection at my office, and he said you probably have like 20,000 pieces just there. So I might have got a little carried away. Maybe a bit. Not at all. But so my wife's like, you should maybe thin it out. So I started with, I went on Instagram and I was like, hey guys, anybody want like, I think I had 9, I can't remember what VC it was, and it sold in seconds. I was like, oh, that's cool. My wife's like, oh, this is pretty cool. You could probably do some of this. But I wasn't good at shipping and handling, so I sold it, but I didn't ship them their items for like a month and a half. They're like, hey, you still sending me my items?
We don't like waiting on our toys.
Well, Amazon stuffed everything, I guess, you know, now learning about it, I'm like, they want it the next day. I got ADHD. I'm like, dude, I saw them. I'm going to go hang out with my kid, and we're going to make a little obstacle course around the house, and we're going to go and play, and, you know, ADHD is hell. I love it. But she was like, you know, maybe you should thin it out a little. So then I got with another group that was doing the similar thing, and I kind of learned about the world, because most of my life I've been off social media, you know, not fully, but just I wasn't engaging, just because when I grew up at 13, you have these grown people saying, oh, you suck, you were not my Boba Fett, I thought you were, what the heck, kids, you killed the character. And you could either go, or you go, what did you say? Oh, I'll come and beat you know, and they're like, oh, what a scary little Boba Fett. You know what I mean? I'm like, my manager like, just best if you let us handle this for now. So then when I got into the world, it was amazing what a small but big community there is in the world, just of Facebook alone. I mean, I love the Imperial Commissary Group. Being able to watch Mike Havens, being able to have, you know, not only the knowledge to be able to teach forth other people with collections and stuff like that. I've learned so much from him. But to see the vast of collection that he has on his own, you know, and it's amazing. I sit there every day going, man, I sell some really cool modern, but he sells really, really, really cool vintage, you know, and I'm like, oh, I could never be Mike Havens. I try to sell a vintage to my group, and that doesn't even move. They're like, send me another modern, like, give us a battle pack or something, Daniel.
Modern's hot right now. Modern's really hot.
I guess selling a prequel person selling the prequel stuff is cooler than, you know.
I guess it doesn't hurt if you buy a Boba Fett from Boba Fett. There is something to be said about that.
It's been pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to let my energy go too, because I love coming to shows. I've done them for 20 years, and then, you know, I do them because I'm kind of stupid. I just say yes to everything almost, and then they're like, "You want to come this month?" My wife checks the calendar. "You good?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll come," you know, because I just love to be out of the house. But since my kids come into the world, I've just wanted to be at home. So it's been able to be able to. It's a good outlet for all of this energy that, you know, the heavens have given me. But it's also, I've been able to grow a community or a family now that have basically been supporting them, each other. Like, you'll have one guy sending beer to another guy, another lady sending cookies to the whole entire group. You got, like, you know, people who, if they need help, they end up supporting or whatnot. Or when we do our live auctions, you know, if someone really wants something, they're like, "Oh, we'll stop bidding against them." And I'm like, no, keep bidding. No, I'm joking. But they're so sweet like that, you know? And I'm like, what amazing people. Or if someone really wanted it and they bought it, they'll go, just go ahead and give it to that person.
I think the community is one of the biggest things. There's nothing like the Star Wars toy community. And I think there's different, I've always categorized different sects of Star Wars and sci-fi fans, but also and other genres as well. There's the fans that they get into just learning the scripts and being able to tell you every single line of the movie, and then you got the people that are into cosplay, and then you have the people that are collectors. And me personally, as pretty much strictly a collector, the collecting community, and you've done shows for years and years and years, and some are more fan-oriented, where some are more collecting-oriented. For me personally, I find the collecting community to be so warm and so inviting and so caring of each other. Do you find a very similar experience?
Yeah, very much supporting. You know, for me, when I created the group, I wanted to create a group which was safe for everybody, where you could share your passion and love for Star Wars. And have support from everybody else, but know that you have the freedom to not be judged or whatever. And since it's been exactly that. I mean, the collector community is an amazing group that I am just so honored to be a part of, because I was part of, I kept that a whole side, but then I did really like, and I jumped in with the builders groups and the 501st, the Mandalorian Mercs, and I've had 2 armors of my own built. I have a movie replica ESB Boba Fett, which has been tailored to me, and then I finally just got my holiday special, but I made a couple of drunken mistakes, not mistakes, and I called one of my droid builder friends, and I'm like, I need an IG-88, and I want to put it outside my house. And he calls me 2 weeks later. He's like, yeah, we started on that IG-88. I'm like, what IG-88? He's like, the life-size one that you want. I'm all, I did. Oh, yeah. When do you need payment? Oh, damn it. But he turned out really nice.
It's like the stack of boxes that show up at my door every day, and I'm like, where did this come from? I didn't order that.
Bounty boxes.
It's either a bounty
Damn
box.
it.
It's either a bounty box or my wife's been shopping on Amazon. That's what my wife collects.
Same as me.
My wife collects
Amazon.
Amazon purchases.
Yeah.
Does anyone else collect Amazon purchases?
The guy, he loves me. The Amazon guy. So what happens is I see him pull up. I'm like, damn it. And then he's like, yep, another one. I'm like, another one? I'm like, this woman, but she only buys like $3 items, She keeps her addiction down, but I'm like, it costs more for the box and everything else. Like, save it all up a week, and then you buy something once a week. I was like, oh, we need a new salt shaker. We do? I got a new nice one from Amazon.
My wife bought a dustbuster the other day. David
That's
goes
what
out.
we could talk about. That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about collecting. David moves to dustbusters. I go to the ICC con. My wife calls me up the other night. I just bought a dustbuster. She's so excited. Yeah, I spent $5,000 on a Mint-On card. That's what I didn't tell her.
Yeah. Trust me, it's equal spending. When you're married, you end up having to. You spend $500. She spends $500. Usually they don't spend $500. They're good.
Usually I didn't spend $500. I spent $5,000.
Yeah, see, my wife would not like that no more. I was like, babe, it's good. It's gonna be for the future. She's like, I don't see no future. She's like, where is it all? I'm like, don't worry, it will take care of us one day. But yeah, it's collecting is a passion. Collecting is addiction. But collection obviously isn't a personal thing that you find to be able to attach to something that makes you happy. And I think for me, being able to take it aside, the child aspect of it, it's an opportunity for you to relive your childhood, to relive that memory of you and your parent, to go back to a part in time in life where maybe it was a happy time. And that's Star Wars, and being able to collect it. I see it as better investments, or I did it, than doing stocks. But then you see some of the guys with stocks and they made 10 grand last night. I'm like, what? You're like, what the? I was like, well, that's not me. I'm going to keep collecting Star Wars, I guess. Hopefully Star Wars goes up.
I'm a much better toy collector than I am a stock trader.
So I'm working on a few things, but I have a TV show that I'm going to create, which is going to bring a lot of, it's going to basically bring the limelight to the world of collecting and what George Lucas has managed to be able to bring. There's thousands of people all over the world, including me, myself, and you, I guess, who have these amazing houses and basements and man caves all over the world that we really would love to see. I mean, and then the education aspect. I mean, if your kid, you just pick the right figures out of the right collections and you put them away, it's almost like having your own stock, but your physical stock, where you can pull it out and look at it and see it and enjoy it and put it back away and make sure you don't bend the corners.
I only bent the corners so the kids could play with it.
You know what? Honestly, though, coming to sending collectibles, I love it, but it sucks. Because once they're mine, I'm fragile with them. But then once they become yours, I'm even more fragile. So I have my niece packaging them with her boyfriend, and I keep sticking tape to the back of the box. I'm like, what are you doing? And he has no clue. He's like, well, chill out, man. I'm like, this is a collectible. Like, they don't make this anymore. It's an episode 1. Anakin Skywalker 12-inch. It's beautiful.
That's Jake Lloyd, don't you know it?
$10 figure, He's like, really? I'm so sorry. I'm like, that's a $10 figure.
Why aren't you wearing gloves?
Yeah.
Put your gloves on when you package my toys.
You got it? My niece, though, she's good. She's sweet. She knows how to pack. I've already yelled at her enough times. Froze her in carbonite a couple other times, you know, and she's now back. She knows now. Collectibles are to be taken care of.
Yes, and don't ever mess with a bounty hunter when you're talking about his toys.
Well, I try to make sure that I pack it just as you see it, you know? And I think that's one of the hard parts is I actually have bought one time a collectible off Amazon. And I had a guy, I'm not gonna say his name. Hopefully he's not gonna watch this. His name is Peter. Oh, okay, I said his name. He's a good friend of mine. He came over during the pandemic and he came and helped work with me, right? This guy. I was like, package the box like this, this, and this. I'll be right back. I gotta make a phone call. I hear Aaron, who works with me. He's like, how much bubble wrap did you put in? He's like, oh, I filled the whole box. I pick it up to weigh it. It's like, rattle, rattle, rattle. I'm like, look over at Peter like, what the heck? I open it up, and it's just like Amazon. He stuck like 2 big popcorn or whatever in there in a box like a 10 by 10 by 10. I'm like, this is not acceptable. You know, and you have to explain to people who have no clue. So he calls me. He's been a great friend of mine. He calls me. He's like, unfortunately, Daniel, I've been called back by Disney. I'm like, oh man, that's so unfortunate. But I'm like, all the bounty box people are gonna be so happy. You know what I mean? Because the collectibles are gonna go back to being shipped perfect. You know, but I said to Paul Peter, like, oh, I'm so sorry to see you leave, man. You know, enjoy Disney. You know, we'll see you back. Hopefully, if you need another run, we'll find another position for you at bounty boxes. Bye.
Well, Daniel, that's all the time we have today, unfortunately. I could sit here and chat toys with you all day long. Did you guys enjoy hearing about Daniel Logan's toy collection?
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Collect
you so
Star
much,
Wars.
Daniel. We're going to be back in about 13 minutes or so. Jeremiah Pantoja is going to be on the stage live painting right in front of you. So if you want to see him paint live, that's going to be quite the performance. So
guys, sorry to cut you off.
Go
Get
ahead.
this. I just saw it yesterday. Jeremiah, he's painting the Boba Fett, and it's going to be badass. So yeah, you might want to stick around. Then also, he's going to auction it off for a great charity, but will be later. So it's not only getting painted live, but it's then going to be raffled for a great, amazing charity with Michael Havens and the ICCC. So if you guys want to see a very talented artist, I've already got one of his prints. Stick around if you guys want to see something new. All right?
Absolutely.
Sorry to cut you off, brother. I got so excited when you started talking about it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
My
as well.
ADHD kicked in. Sorry, dude.
We work well together.
I'm like, oh, let me say it. My wife hates me. She's a mute.
Another round of applause for Daniel Logan.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful convention. Thank you for coming to the ICCC. And make sure you tell all your friends to come back next year. This is the only place to get collectibles, all right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you guys.